What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, obviously, I've been a little bit away from Chelsea reviews and stuff, but I have been keeping up with the games. I went to the Orlando game, and that's honestly one we're not really going to talk about very much because I don't really have a Chelsea game to review there. They didn't play. They didn't show up mentally, physically. It was embarrassing, and honestly, it was a waste of money for. I mean, thankfully, I'm not the one that paid for the tickets, but still, just waste of money for all the Chelsea fans that went. Because when you're paying for being able to see your favorite team in the U.S., because we don't normally get to see that here, you want to go to the game to experience getting to see your favorite team in person. And instead, I went to the game and I saw Arsenal play, and I saw Chelsea stand around, and that's not what I paid for. So I was a little frustrated with that. I lie. I was very frustrated with that. After that game, honestly, I lost all hope for this season. Like, I came away from that game feeling like we were going to have a bad season. Like, we were going to really struggle. It was going to be a mid-table season. Tuchel was going to get sacked halfway through. After the Udinese matches, first of all, I mean, I didn't get to see the one that was behind closed doors because they didn't televise that one, as far as I know. It may have been on the Fifth Stand app, like, live, but it was 5 a.m. our time, so I wasn't able to watch that one, unfortunately. But I did get to see the one that was televised, and it looked a bit better, and a lot of that came down to I kind of forgot that Conte is involved. And he's one that, I don't know, even though he's not been at his best in the past couple of years, he's still such a good player that having him on the field can bring everybody's energy up. And on top of that, it did feel a little bit better as far as the lineup was concerned, because there were a lot of people in the match against Arsenal that I felt like they're not going to be playing much this season, or they're on their way out. So it did feel a little bit like, why are they playing? Why are we having to watch them if we're not going to see them at all this season? So after that, and then seeing the Udinese match, or I keep saying Udinese. It's not that, though. That's what I want to say because that's how I read it in English. But I know it's like Udinese or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, apologies to any Italians that happen to be watching this and are upset that I pronounced that one wrong. But no, getting into the first game of the season, though, against Everton, it's at Everton, so there's always that kind of home factor, even for a team like Everton that's clearly struggled last season and not really done much in the window this season. It was going to be a very interesting match to watch, and I feel like it felt very similar to what we saw a lot of last season. You know, it felt like a typical Tuchel match. You've got well, at least I've got my issues with some of the selections he made, some of the players he decided to put out there, some of the subs that he made, and it just felt like it's a team that we should be beating pretty easily because they're not that good. You know, they had quite a few chances to break on us and they just couldn't because they don't have the talent up top, and defensively they're just kind of packing it in and letting us have a lot of possession. So it feels like a game where we are in control and we should pretty handily beat them. But typical Tuchel fashion, we don't really have anybody up top that finishes. It feels like a lot of our possession is slow, knocking it back and forth. We knock it down here, and then we come back around. We knock it down there. We come back around. We knock it down. It was just typical Tuchel style, and I'm not really loving it. I know a lot of fans are like, "Oh, you just gotta trust him. He won us the Champions League." I watch his style, and it's the exact same every time. It's not that interesting. It's very predictable. Teams are able to pack it in on us and just counter because they can. We don't have a whole lot of pace in the back three. I don't really get what people see in the way we play under Tuchel. Like, the only thing that he's really done is solidified us a bit more, and even that, we've given up so many goals in the past, several months. We ended the season giving up, on an average, like 2 goals a game, I think. So yeah, that defensive style has sort of left the team, so we're not very fluid in the attack. We don't look dangerous most of the time, and then defensively we've not been as good as when he first came in. So what are we getting out of Tuchel right now? And I know people are trying to say, "Oh, well, you gotta let him get his players in. You gotta get the people he wants in." Okay, well, that's great and all, but the style's not gonna change. So if the style doesn't change, teams are still going to sit in, pack it in on us, and we're still not going to be able to finish because he's still not buying any finishers. He's still not getting any finishers into the team. Sterling is not a finisher. He's talented on the ball, but he's not a finisher. So who's going to be finishing for us? I don't know. So just quickly discussing the Everton game, though. As far as performances are concerned, Mendy did okay. He made one really good save. Aside from that, wasn't really tested because, again, Everton's front three was not really that good. Then you got the back three of Silva, Azpilicueta, Koulibaly. I like the fact that Azpilicueta is staying. I don't think he's going to be quite as effective as he has been for us in the past, but he's still a very good leader to have out on the pitch because he still works his butt off. He's lacking a little bit more pace these days, but he still reads the game well enough to put himself in a good position to make sure he doesn't get beat for pace. And, I mean, just the work rate alone helps him so much. And I don't think that's something that you can just go out and get from any defender. I mean, the best defender in the world, considered by most people right now, he's one of the laziest defenders I've ever seen. He's just strong and fast, and that he gets away with it because of that. But I value those defenders that are always on. They're always ready to make the run. They're reading the situation. It's something that you can't go and see in a player because they have that one game where they decide, hey, you know what, I'm not working. They could really hurt you. So, but Silva is still looking very good. I saw a rumor. I don't know if this is true or if this is just something made up because it's kind of funny. But I saw something that said that he was apparently tested for doping after the match. I'm like, I mean, I guess people are just like, he's 38 years old and he's still this good. Something's wrong with that. We need to test him for doping. I'm like, wait a minute. I remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago whenever Liverpool won the league and Klopp hardly made any changes in his team, and they played a lot of games back-to-back, and yet none of them ever seemed tired, and nobody questioned about doping then, but Silva has one good match. That's why I'm like, it's probably not real. It's probably just a joke. But, no, I mean, yeah, another great game from him. But the big talking point was, of course, Koulibaly in the back three. And, yeah, he looks pretty solid. He's got some kinks in his game that he needs to get figured out. There are a couple rash decisions he went into, but of course, I mean, Rudiger also did the same thing, and he's supposed to be replacing Rudiger. So, yeah, I'm excited to see more of him. I hope he can continue at this pace because he looked pretty good. He looked like he was able to keep up with how fast the Premier League is and how quickly teams can break on you. He did get caught out of position a couple times, but it was nothing too bad, especially considering Sarr has played there before, and Sarr is one of the worst positionally defensive players I've ever seen. So, as far as the wings backs were concerned, this is probably where the biggest disappointments were for me, because Chilwell definitely looked very off the pace. He looked slow. He looked slagged. None of it really looked good from him. He looked like a guy who didn't really have a great preseason, and that's kind of what happened with him. I think he's still struggling to return from injury. I hope he can get back to 100% because when he is 100%, he's very solid. He's very good at that left wing back position. But for right now, I don't think he's got that position on lock, especially with Cucurella coming in later on in the game. And I thought Cucurella really came in and did a good job of showing what we need out of that left wing back position. You're driving down the line, knocking balls around. I mean, it was a very good first showing for him. And he was a signing when we picked him up. I was kind of like, I'm not really sure. You know, he did okay for Brighton, but it's not one that I'm thinking we need to go get him. And on top of that, I don't want to become one of those teams that essentially, kind of like what Tottenham did this season, goes to these lower teams and is like, hey, I like that guy. I'm going to pick him up. Because, I mean, it works sometimes, but most of the time you look at Grealish, you look at Jota, he did okay at Liverpool. Long? I think went to Liverpool as well. There are several players that I could point to in the past that have gone to a bigger club and they've not really done anything. You know, they went to that bigger club, and even though they were performing so well for a lower club, now all of a sudden they're at their bigger club and it's too much pressure, or they're not quite as good compared to all the other great players on the team. But I thought Cucurella had a good debut, and I hope he can continue to keep up that pace because we need somebody on that left side who's going to bomb up and down the pitch. And Chilwell just doesn't look like he has it at the moment. James, on the other side, also very disappointing, especially considering, I mean, he should be at the top of his game right now. You know, he had the whole preseason. I don't get it. I mean, he should be 100%. He should be fit. He played most of the end of last season. So why is he still just kind of jogging around the field? Why is he so slow? Why is he giving the ball away? Why is he taking 10 corners and only, I think, one of them was even within the mix, like was barely dangerous. The only dangerous corners we had, because we had like, I think, 12? We had several corners. The only ones that ended up being dangerous are the ones where he went short to Sterling. James is supposed to be a better crosser than that. So how come he's not putting in any dangerous balls? Is it James's fault, or is it whoever's working on our set pieces? But whatever the case, based on his overall play, I'm more inclined to blame James for his delivery because his passing and his work rate just looked awful. Like I didn't know what to think. I'm sitting there watching him just sort of jog around the field. I'm like, does he feel safe? Does he feel like he doesn't need to work that hard because his position's not in jeopardy? I don't get it. And I've had this issue with him before, and it's why in the past I feel like I've preferred Azpilicueta in that position, because Azpilicueta is going to boom, 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 up and down the field, which is what we need out of a wing back. James doesn't really give us that very often. He's just kind of there, and then he's kind of coming back, and then, oh no, I'm out of position, I need to get back, and then he sprints. But it's too late. You need to be 100% always turned on. So I don't know what's going on with him, but he's had these moments in the past, and I'm worried that in the first game it's already creeped into his game. Is he going to overcome that in the next game? Is he going to show his talent? Is he going to show his work rate and his capability? Or is he just going to give us another very, I'm just out here. Just give me the ball. Maybe I'll do something with it. Maybe I'll just sort of pass it around. I don't know, but it was not what I want or expect out of him. Into the midfield, Conte looked pretty solid. Didn't look fantastic like he normally does, but still looked pretty good. He didn't control the midfield as much as he typically will, but I hope that this season we do see a bit more of that because we didn't see that much last season. Honestly, because we didn't get a lot of our midfield targets, we need him to show up and we need him to be the Conte that we remember, at least for one more season until we get somebody to take that defensive mid spot. I don't know much about the 18-year-old kid that we signed from Villa. I know he's a midfielder, but I don't know if he's more defensive or not. But maybe he's the long-term plan to bring in for Conte's replacement. As far as Jorginho is concerned, started off okay. I thought the first half he looked solid. He did his typical Jorginho stuff where he's just kind of knocking the ball around. He's keeping possession. He's not doing anything too bad. And then the second half is whenever the more typical bad Jorginho starts to show up, where he's too slow, they're constantly running past him, he doesn't have enough time on the ball, so he's just sort of passing backwards all the time. He's not actually keeping us in good possession. It's more so just like, oh crap, I gotta get rid of it. So yeah, it was a tale of two halves of the typical Jorginho, which I'm like, he doesn't really help us, but at least he's not killing us. And then the other Jorginho that I see more often than not, where I'm just like, why is he playing for one of the top teams in the world? That makes no sense to me. Why did anybody from one of the top teams in the world want him? How is that possible? Up into the front three, Sterling, obviously, I think a lot of people saw what he brought. I mean, he showed his capabilities. It's something that I've complained about in the past for him. So now that he's doing it for us, I'm kind of like, it's that weird feeling of like anytime he flopped, anytime he fell over and got the call, and it was a little soft, I'm just like, at least he's doing it for us. It's kind of funny for me because this is the first time that something like this has happened. This is the first time Chelsea has signed a player like Sterling, where I'm just sitting here going, God, I complained about you so much when you were playing for City, and now you're coming to our team and you're doing pretty much the same thing, but it's beneficial for us, so good, I guess. But yeah, I mean, overall though, the good part of his game, the stuff that universally can be enjoyed, not just his flops. I thought he did pretty well. He had some good moments of possession on the ball, turned some defenders. I thought overall, maybe not fantastic. Like I'm giving probably like a 7.5, something like that. Because it wasn't like he was constantly involved in the game. There were some moments where he sort of faded away. He wasn't quite as interested. But for the most part, I think the good that he did benefited us more than the moments where he wasn't really helping us out. So I hope to see more of that. I hope he can continue on that, basically where he was at City, being that constant threat up top. I hope he can do that for us too. Also, I did want to point out the penalties that happened and didn't happen. Because, yeah, the one on Chilwell, maybe a little bit soft. There was that tug, and then it took a second, and then Chilwell goes over. So, maybe a little bit soft. It is kind of a silly challenge from Decore. You don't really want to put your arms around him and pull him down from behind. Even if you don't really pull, just that motion of he's in front of you, you do this, and then he falls over could easily be given. Now, granted, I didn't expect it to happen because earlier in the match he did the same thing, just much more aggressive. And honestly, I'm just like, this is why VAR is so dumb to me. Because you look at the first challenge that wasn't a penalty on Sterling, and then you look at the second challenge that was a penalty on Chilwell. This one looks like a penalty, but the ref didn't give it, and VAR didn't overturn it. This one doesn't look like a penalty, but the ref gave it, and VAR didn't overturn it. So, I don't excuse me, I don't get it. Like, I don't really understand why is there VAR if they're not going to help in situations like this. Because the foul that happens is on the other side of the ref's view. Decore has a hold of Sterling, and he gives him basically a big bear hug. So that is a foul. But the ref didn't see it because he's behind the play. Chilwell's not really a foul. He put his hands on him, but he didn't actually pull. He didn't actually, hold him back or anything. He just had his hands there because he was trying to basically jockey for position. So it wasn't really enough contact, but the ref can't see that because he's behind him. So that's where I feel like VAR is supposed to help that, right? VAR can see the angle where you can clearly see in the first one, Decore, he's got his arms around him. He's pulled him back. Like, honestly, it reminded me of like a dad picking up his kid and like slamming him onto the bed. Like, I thought that's what he was about to do the way he had a hold of him. So it's supposed to help him with that. And then again, the second one, not that much contact, but it kind of looks like it is because Decore is very much right there on him, and Chilwell feels how close he is and decides to go over. But VAR should be able to tell you, hey, that wasn't enough. That's not a penalty. So I don't know. They balanced it out in the end because, again, we got a penalty that wasn't deserved, but we didn't get one that was deserved. So it does balance out. But I don't get VAR sometimes. I feel like even in the Man U Brighton game that happened today, I mean, you look at the penalty that wasn't given on, what's his name, Martinez, the new defender. I mean, literally just hand into the shoulder and arm into the back of Welbeck. No penalty. And then the goal that they get, I mean, there's not really much contact on the keeper for the foul, but ball falls down, whoever it was, I can't remember who scored now, turns off the elbow and in. Just like, I thought you weren't able to score with the arm, but VAR is just, you didn't see it, didn't see the handball. Okay, we're good. Man U gets a goal. I don't get it. Anyways, that's my little VAR rant. Havertz is the final. No, Mount and Havertz were the final two to talk about. Mount, just sort of there. His typical hardworking self, but not nearly as effective as he has been in the past. I don't really know what's going on with him. I feel like there are times when he sort of is just there, but not really as involved as he could be. And this felt like one of those matches. So typically he doesn't have too many bad matches, though. Like, most of the time when he has a bad match, either the next one or the one after is where he turns it back around and is like, oh, Mount's back. So hopefully that turns around pretty quickly. But yeah, in this one he didn't really help us. And then Havertz was just a bystander for the most part. And it makes me wonder, is he going to be involved much this season? Because with Broja being involved, he's much more the type of player that I expect to see. Your Werner type, your work hard, win the ball back. Which, by the way, if the reports of Werner leaving are true, I really want Tuchel out of the club because he just basically forced one of our hardest working, underappreciated players out the door. But yeah, I mean, all the talk is that we're looking for another striker. Don't know who it's going to be. There's talks of Ronaldo. There's talks of Aubameyang. There's talks of who's the other one I saw? Depay, I think, was another one. So all these talks of getting a new striker, and if so, Havertz may not have. And granted, I don't think that's Havertz's best position anyway. So I do think that's another mistake Tuchel's making, that he's trying to force Havertz to be a striker when he's better as a 10. But yeah, I feel like he's been hurt so many times being in that position. I would hope that he would have learned how to play there by now because he's gotten so many opportunities to, but it doesn't feel like he has. It feels like he's still the same player that he has been. He's still good at, picking the ball up deep, turning, finding a good pass, and that's unfortunately not what we need out of a striker, so whenever he's there, he's not effective. So, I don't know. We'll see if Tuchel can learn his lesson, or more likely will just continue to try to put that circle into the square hole, because yeah, if it hasn't fit the first 100 times, maybe it'll fit this time, Tuchel. You got it, man. Insanity is the definition. Sanity's definition is trying the same thing, expecting a different result. Tuchel is insane. Just letting you know. I'm also insane because for some reason I don't know why I'm doing this. For some reason I think making these videos talking about Tuchel being insane is going to change anything. I know it won't because Tuchel's not watching these videos. He's sitting in his room probably, I don't know, what do crazy people do? Swatting at invisible flies? Who knows? As far as the subs that were made, from Tuchel's point of view, honestly, Kovacic or Gallagher should have been the first one to come in because of how much our midfield was getting overrun because Jorginho is just too slow. It should have been Kovacic or Gallagher first just to get them in for Jorginho and provide a bit more speed and stability in there. Now, granted, Gallagher, I don't know if he's got that part of his game yet where he can get in there and do what Kovacic does, which is keep possession. I also don't know why Kovacic didn't start in the first place, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, that should have been the first sub. It was not. First subs were... I'm trying to remember now. Loftus-Cheek was one. Pulisic was the other one, I'm pretty sure. Pulisic came on for Mount, and then Loftus-Cheek came on for Chilwell, which pushed James over to the left side, and then Loftus-Cheek was right wing back. I've already talked... Actually, I didn't talk about either of them, did I? I am tired. Pulisic came on, busybody, not effective, kind of just there. There were a couple runs that he made that were pretty dangerous, but I honestly can't remember any good chances that he created for us, which kind of sad. But yeah, I don't know. He's still here, but I don't feel like he's providing us much at the moment, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed. Loftus-Cheek, I still think he's got potential. I still think he's a player that he's got a part to play in this team. Now, is he going to be used at right wing back or is he going to be used in the midfield? I don't know. I kind of hope more in the midfield because that's typically what he does pretty well. Is he gets the ball from deep, he can drive at people. Those long driving runs, typically pretty good with that. But maybe the idea is put him out on the wing. He has that space to drive down there too. Maybe get a cross in. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from him, but he put in a pretty solid performance overall. So I'm glad that it appears he's got a place in the team, and I hope to see a bit more of him. Then the next subs were Cucurella and Broja. And Broja came on and did what I expected him to do, put some pressure on the defense, made himself not really a huge threat, but definitely a nuisance for the defense. That's something that I don't think has really been picked up upon by a lot of people, including Tuchel, is that he's the type of player that you throw him in there, he's going to work his butt off, which means he's going to put pressure on the defense. They're not going to have as much time to play. He may not be the most technically gifted player, but you know what? He's going to put a lot of hard work in and help the team because of it. Just like somebody else named Werner. it's astonishing to me again that so many people don't respect what he does because, oh well, he's missed so many chances. How many chances did he create though? How many times did his run open up space for other people? How many times did his pressure create opportunities for somebody to win it or he won it back? Nobody thinks about this stuff, including Tuchel, who's apparently trying to force him out the door from all the reports and rumors. And then Cucurella, I already talked about him and his performance at left wing back. It was very solid. Then the final one was Gallagher, and he just came on for like last couple minutes to, I don't know, bring some energy. Don't know why he wasn't utilized earlier in the game, but hey, Tuchel's an idiot, so that's really the only explanation I have. But yeah, all in all, I mean, it was a good first game. It was a good first result, but it's not great. It's something that it's not eased any of my worries that I had after the 4-0 game. You know, after the narrow 2-1, 3-1 win against Udinese. Sorry. It's just there's still too many gaps. There's still too many problems, and I think, again, I just don't think Tuchel's system and style works, and it feels like he's too stubborn to change anything about it. Like, it feels like he wants to play one certain way, and if you don't, he's gonna force you out the door. You know, and as much as I didn't like Lukaku, maybe that's what happened there. Maybe there was some disconnect into what he was telling Lukaku he wanted him to do and what he was telling the team that he wanted them to do. Because Lukaku didn't fit in his system, Werner didn't fit in his system, Havertz doesn't fit in his system. Is anybody going to fit in his system, or is it just a system that's not going to work in the Premier League? I don't know. But yeah, clearly there's issues that need to be addressed, and hopefully they will be addressed soon, because we need to get our act together very soon, or else. And we got Tottenham next weekend, and I mean, I'm not saying that I honestly still don't think Tottenham are going to be title challengers like some people are claiming, but they are going to be a team that's full of much more confidence than when we played them last season. You know, Conte, he has got them working harder. He has gotten his team together with players that he wants. I do think they're going to be a tougher team to face this season. So are we going to be ready for it, or is it going to be another embarrassing result like what happened in Orlando? I don't know. But yeah, that's all of my thoughts. I will put together a video at the end of, I think this month is when the transfer window closes. I can't remember if it closes at the end of August or if it closes sometime in the middle of August. I've already forgotten. But I will do a video for that whenever that does close and talk about all the transfers that happen in and out. Because there's, of course, a lot to talk about and a lot to dissect and rate and all of that stuff. So look forward to that. But with that being said, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game this past weekend, and also the other preseason games that I missed? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.